Schiff, thank you very much, sir.
My pleasure.
All right, fears that the Suez Canal could be closed by the protests have some wondering what would happen to the price of gasoline. Could we be looking at $5 a gallon at the pump? Joining me now are John Hofmeister, former president of Shell Oil. Thank you. $5 a gallon. You were predicting $5 a gallon for gasoline at the pump before the Egyptian uprising.
Yes, that could be even worse than that, Eric. It's a really serious problem that the administration is giving no time whatsoever. I hear nothing coming out of official Washington on the concerns. But the process that goes on for oil companies is they need long lead times. They abhor political instability. It just doesn't work because the long-term capital investments have to have some kind of political protection. And when we see this turmoil, and when we see an administration in this country which wants to export more domestic drilling to other parts of the world because they don't want to drill in this country, we're on a path to $5 oil or $5 gasoline without the political instability. So who knows where it could go with political instability.
Hey, guys, do me a favor. Bring up that world oil choke points map. I'm going to draw on it a little bit. I want to show you what I'm looking at, John. We talk about the Suez Canal. Here it is right here. 3 million barrels or so a day goes through there. But here's what I would call kind of the heartbeat of the whole oil industry, probably the whole global economy, in fact. That's the Strait of Hormuz. 17%, 18% of the world's oil passes through that little choke point, that very, very small choke point, and one of the most concerning parts of it on one side of it, right there, on one side of that, Iran. John, what if that were to close? What kind of price per barrel or gallon would we see if that were to close?
I'd say that within 5 to 10 days, you'd be looking at $150 to $200 oil because people would be so desperate to lay in supplies that with nearly 20% of the world's oil cut off because of that choke point, that's a very serious crisis, particularly for Asia, which is increasing demand. The U.S. has some inventory protection and a strategic petroleum reserve. No need to panic in the U.S., but global prices would skyrocket rapidly.
And I need to point this out before I get to the panel very quickly, John. Earlier today, crude oil was down on the day. However, gasoline traded at on the wholesale level was up another penny. That's 13 cents a gallon higher since this uprising started. I'm going to bring it to the panel. Curtis, you're not concerned. I don't hear concern. I don't hear fear in your voice.
Come on. Bunch of kids throwing rocks in Egypt is going to affect the flow of oil in the Suez Canal. Remember, history tells us British paratroopers, French paratroopers landed there. Americans were there when Gabdel Nasser closed the Suez Canal. No one's suggesting anyone's going to,
Iran is on one of the banks of the Strait of Hormuz.
They had a civil war between Iraq and Iran for 7 years, and we were guiding tankers through the Straits of Hormuz, and they were shooting missiles at one another. This is ridiculous. This is where all the speculators pump, grease the wheel, raise the price, and go home with chamolis and bring back Big Bang. Fear, fright, hysteria, and hype.
Discussion another time because, again, natural gas prices are actually lower. John, let me ask you this. Natural gas prices lower since the conflict started. Is that not the perfect? If I were a business professor in B school, I'd be saying here's the perfect example of why you need to drill your own oil. Natural gas is down since this thing started. Oil is up $7 to $6 a barrel. Gasoline's off to the races.
You know, we have hundreds of billions of barrels in the United States, 1 trillion barrels out in Colorado. The political aversion to drilling our own domestic oil because sometimes it's unpleasant, sometimes it's risky. But what is the ultimate risk of shutting down the American economy because we are still relying on oil every day of every week? 20 million barrels a day. It's not going away.
Hang in there. Go ahead, Andy.
You know, this is such a shaky area of the world, and anytime there's any kind of unrest, we have the same kind of discussion. And to build on John's point, it's not just that the president doesn't want to drill. This man is wholly antagonistic toward crude. I mean, the president in his State of the Union came out, picked winners and losers, demonized the oil companies. He favored windmills. He favors electric cars. Guess what? Everyone's got a gas tank now. This is a reality.
I think what the president is doing.
Competitive alternative to crude.
I hear you, Andrew, but I think what the president is doing is saying, look, we have to look at other feasible alternatives. We cannot just look to oil to solve every problem that we potentially have.
Hold on, Joey. I absolutely agree with you on that. But he demonized in the State of the Union the oil oil companies. He's picking winners and losers, and that is not the government's job.
Oh, John, what about the subsidies, right? Let's cut the subsidies to the oil companies who are packing billions here. Why are we giving our money to you billionaires?
Go ahead, John. Last word.
I testified in Congress 5 times. Eliminate the subsidies. Who cares? At high gas prices, high oil prices, the subsidies aren't needed. Get rid of them. Get off the issue. Get to producing domestic oil. That's what we need.
You tell him, Hofmeister. Tell Curtis, get off the subsidies. You're in favor of that. Thank you very much, John.